welcome to this live session. I've been invited by match fishing, Clive Branson, to join him this afternoon. Well, not join him because I think I'm going to be doing most of the work, but I've already got a few questions in from you, so I'll be able to answer some as I go along. And my friend John Dickey, hello John. John Dickey's watching, so he's obviously been laid off and not working. And Adam. Okay, so there's a few already coming on, and we're trying it in the afternoon, 2:00 in the afternoon, because really there's not much to do, is there? I was jet washing paths this morning for Bernie, so I do some things. And I even made a cup of tea the other day, so I'm getting better. Right, so if you've got any questions, I'll try and answer them as they come through. I've got my laptop set up as well. I'm talking off my phone at the moment, and but I've got some questions that you already put in. So let's have a look. From Lee Gregory. This is from Lee. This is a tough one. What is your favourite venue and my worst venue that I've fished in World Championships? Really, to be truthful, every World Championship you fish is great, and some venues are tougher than others. And I would have said, now I love catching fish, so my best, the one that I enjoyed the most, and not necessarily during practice, but in the match, and it was a World Championship that I won. But as I say, I enjoy them all, and that was in 1999 in Spain. It was a river called the Castrian Channel. It was a man-made channel river down to a power station, and it was deep and fast-flowing, but it had a lovely head of carp. In practice, it was really tough, though. Although we'd been out 2 weeks beforehand, and the first week we caught quite well, but when it was official team practice and everybody was on it, it was 1 or 2 fish a session, maybe 3. It's the only World Championship that I've ever fished where, come match day, it was miles better than the practice sessions. Come match day, I can't remember what section I drew, but I won my section with 22 kilos of carp. And we were using big flat floats, so it was a powerful river, fishing probably 13 metres there the first day, and you've got to put a ball of ground bait just upstream of your float, and then you had to go in with your flat float and hold it, and catching these carp on usually 3 maggots, laying a load of line on the bottom. And that was quite a tough, technically very difficult match. And the second day, I didn't win my section the second day. I had 30 something kilo. But the second day we started off fishing out 13 metres. Still quite a few fish about, but then the river slowed, and I'd fed an inside line at about 6 or 7 metres. We had that in our plan anyway. Not that we'd ever caught anything on it in the week, but it was in our plan to put some balls on that line. And the river slowed a bit. And I thought, I wonder if those fish are on that line. And I caught a lot of fish in the end really quick at about 6 metres. So that was really, as a match, both days was really aggressive. And I still, a lot of people don't know, but I hold the record. Nobody in any World Championship has ever had the total weight that I caught over those 2 days, which is not a lot when you compare to our commercial fisheries these days. But I had 20 odd, 50 or 60 kilos over 2 days. I know at one time I was almost swinging in 1 pound carp, so that's not easy to do, is it? But I was. And my worst one, and I won't talk too much about it, it was in Finland. It was a canal. Not worse for me, but just terrible fishing. The bottom was very uneven, and we couldn't get over at our full pole length. We're allowed 13 metres in. You couldn't get over onto the smooth bottom of this canal, which was further out. Massive ships on it, so you fed, and then this massive ship would come past and be towering above you, and then all your feed was gone, and we were only catching little fish. So that was probably the toughest one I've ever fished. There's quite a few people watching. For a laugh, tell us about your stumble down the bank in practice for World Champs. Oh, God, I can't remember that. I fell over so many times, usually when I've had a few to drink. But let's get to one or two other questions. Oh, Justin, this is a good one from Justin Watkins. How do you like the new Browning Sphere Silver Light Whip? Now, I would say it's brilliant, wouldn't I? I would, but it is brilliant. I've never seen a 10-metre, although it's called a whip, really, it's more like a very, very slim pole because it's easily take apart. So it's put over sections which make it easy to take apart. And the sections are about 1 metre long. Every one is exactly 1 metre long. So if if you've got 10 and you take one section off, you're fishing 9. And if you take another one off, you're fishing 8 metres. And every section's marked up. But I've had to give it back because we took it to a show at Stoneleigh and I haven't seen it since. And then there was a lockdown, so I can't get my hands on it. I'm just waiting. Can't wait to get it because that is an incredible, Justin, that is an incredible pole. Just wait till you get hold of it. It's lovely. I don't know what it'll be. It'll be quite expensive, but whatever it was, if I get them for nothing, but if I had to pay for it, whatever it cost, I'd go and buy it because it's brilliant. No, I'd go and buy 2 because you need 2, but then that's me. I haven't got much to spend my money on, have I? Only fishing tackle. But then I get given most of that. Right, let's have a look. There's loads of questions coming in. They should be coming in on my laptop as well, but I'm not very good at this technical stuff. I've got my phone. I've got the best iPhone in the world, right? The largest one, the high-tech, everything. So it's the best iPhone in the world. Brilliant camera on it, and that's okay. I do everything on it, my emails. You don't need laptops now because your phone does a lot. Let me have a look. I'm just looking for my next question. Look at this. This is from Liam Dale, who probably working together, we made about probably 70 fishing programs. And he did a lot. Liam did a lot to promote my angling career because DVDs, first of all, that's where they were in video format. And then it got better and better. But Liam did a lot for me, I must admit. And he himself is a very, very good presenter, an angler. And I think it made him, Liam, yes, you're the best director in the world. All right? Good. But Liam, actually, because he's a good angler as well, understood a lot about presentation and how to present it. He did a good job for me. Thank you, Liam, for all your efforts. I'm going to try and whiz through some of these and perhaps bring out a little bit of a story. And if we can get some technical stuff in as well, that will be great. This is from John Sloan. The best feeders to use in Ireland. John, these are the feeders that I love. They're called a window feeder. That's a window feeder, which is basically what it says it is. It's a feeder with a window. It's front loaded, so very, very accurate on casting. When it goes through the water, it actually drops through the water like that. So nothing is being released from the feeder until it hits the bottom. And when it hits the bottom, it sits like that. So it's sitting sort of just on the ball there. So all the contents then come out, but your line will be on the top here, and you seem to hit so many more bites. Because it's front loaded and goes straight down, it goes through the water twice as quick as any other feeder because it's streamlined. This particular one is our latest one. It's called a Streamline. I helped develop this one. And in fact, I invented the first window feeder, design-wise for production, about 15 years ago. So this one is actually got no holes at all, completely smooth, so you can fill that with chop worm and your chop worms won't come out, and then you seal this window just with a smear of ground bait. So chop worm casters in there or pellets, just slightly dampen your pellets, put them in, and then just touch it with your finger. You don't need to put any ground bait with pellets, and just a little touch out, and then they just all drop out of the feeder, all dissolve out. Fabulous to use, window feeder. Won so much money with those. I don't know if I'm doing very well because I can see who's coming up. Do I still use Paul Williams, do I still use Stoneflow connectors? Do you think... Oh, this is from my mate Roddy. Now, this lad, Roddy Scott's just come up, and he's a lovely lad, and he's a tackle dealer, Northwich Angling Centre, and he thinks, will we make Ireland in September? Yeah, I hope so, Roddy. Now, Roddy is one of the best feeder anglers in Ireland, and he loves to use this window feeder. And he said to me, he said, Bob, he said, that window feeder, he said, why ever did you invent that? I said, well, why? He said, well, he said, you know, it turns a bad or an average angler into a brilliant angler because they work so well, and he uses it. So that's, and he's had some big weights of hybrids. He's one of these. He doesn't always fish matches in this country. He fishes more now than he used to. But he's one of these really aggressive. He's better than me at fishing the window feeder, and I invented it. But he's very, very aggressive when he's fishing it, really quick. Surprised me how good he is. And his dad was good as well, Mel. Right, let's go. What's Tom Batterby? If you could fish one peg on any venue tomorrow, that's a good one, isn't it? If I could fish one peg on any venue tomorrow, so it discounts anything in this country on rivers, so I can't say the Yare or wherever because it's closed season. I could pick a commercial. Where would I go? I tell you where I'd go. I would go this time of year. There's a peg on Lower Loch Earn, on the section called Ely Forest, and at this time of year the big roach, they're big female roach, are just moving from the loch towards the River Earn. So they're moving, all gathering together in the loch and moving up into the main River Earn. But at this time of the year, and in fact it is exactly this time of the year, they'll be around that Ely Forest area, and there's one peg, Ely 14, which is, you're on a bit of a point on your own. You can cast into, I don't know, probably 15 foot of water, I'm guessing, 5 metres, and catch these big roach. I mean, you would catch loads of 1 pound roach, 12 ounce to 1 pound, 3 maggots on the hook, window feeder, 50 metres, probably 45. But you could catch anything between 30 and 40 kilos on the feeder of these big clonking roach. But they're only there probably for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. But today they're there. I wish I was sitting there today. And I hope that answers your question. So if anybody, we can't get to Ireland, can we? We can't get on a ferry or anything. But if I could, that's where I'd go. On a commercial, where would I go on a commercial? I would go to my local decoy lakes. I love it there. That must be one of the best commercial fisheries in the country. And I do love to fish there. But pleasure fishing today, you would catch loads of fish. Right, Roger. Fishing on a canal and the loch. Oh, Roger's saying, if I'm fishing on a canal, we didn't used to... Say you're fishing on a canal and the lock gate suddenly opened on it and the water whizzes away. Well, what you have to do, Roger, you have to have a rig set up for this. Especially if it's going a lot. If it's only going it once a day, then you don't worry. But if it's doing it a lot, then you have to set up a heavier rig. Get your Olivette, put an Olivette on and get it right down near the bottom. Even a flat float, but you could put, say, a 2 gram flat float up. And even if it's a flat float, you don't have to hold it dead still, but just let it run at sort of, if you can, at quarter pace, probably 2 gram. Let it run it, and you will catch. Just fish well over depth, mind you. Just put a lot of line over depth. Get your Olivette and your main bulk right near the bottom, and then just don't feed though when it's running like that. Just go over where you've been feeding and just run it and hold it. Run it. To hold a flat float dead still, you have to fish much, much heavier than if, say if you was to run a 2 gram float. If you wanted to hold a flat float still, you would have to fish a 5 gram flat float. You have to fish much, much heavier to hold it dead still. But if you run it, you can run a 2 gram flat float, but at half pace without it coming out of the water. Well, I hope that answered that one. There's loads of questions coming up. What connection? Let's. This. I'm going to squeeze this one in. This is from Nigel Beasley, so he must be watching. What connection do you use for pole rigs to the elastic? Depends what I'm doing. If I'm fishing normal sort of lightish elastics, then I just use a little small connector. I think probably the best ones, the tiniest ones. If I'm using hollow elastics or the bigger elastics, then I use a Dacron. But for normal fishing with, say, 2, 3, 4, 5 elastics solid, then I use a tiny connector. And I think Preston and Drennan, they both do quite good ones. There's a really small one called a Micro, which I use for elastics up to 5. And then there's a medium-sized one, which I use for elastics up to 8. And then I use a Dacron connector. So I mix everything. I'm not a normal fisherman, I don't think, because I'm not a traditional, I must do this and must do that. I do like to use small connectors. Kevin Humphrey, what would be your best peg on... Oh, Kevin Humphrey, what would be the best peg, my best peg on the River Yare? Do you know, I can never remember numbers, Kevin, but there's one where you go down to Langley Pump, and just as you go onto Langley Pump, what number would that be? That would be 100 and something, 117 or something, just to the left. Just to the left of the pump, perhaps just a little way along there. It's like a roach bay, but that's a beautiful roach peg there. I've had one of my best a couple of years ago, 26 pound of roach fishing to hand. I had a good weight last year as well, but that's nice, really deep close in and lovely to fish. Hello Phil, how are you Phil? Phil Jackson, but he's gone. I haven't seen what he asked me. God, the questions are coming in. How many people are watching? Let's see, have a look. I'm trying to get them, but they're just going so fast. Let's have a look. I might be able to... I can scroll back down, can't I? Do you know what I am? I'm bloody useless at this, and I can whiz back and get them. Oh, this is from Paul Jackson. Sorry. Do you catch most Irish hybrids on the drop in Ireland or on the deck? A bit of both. Hybrids are the same as F1s. They love feeding on the drop. So it depends how you're feeding. If you're loose feeding, then you will be catching them on the drop. If you're in a feeder, they still quite often. Even if I'm using a window feeder, I'll crush some casters before I mix them in with the worms. If you crush casters, they actually bits float. But I think when you fish in a window feeder, I think obviously bits do come up and move a bit when you're on the bottom, and I think the hybrids are above that. So quite often they're aware and you catch them. The fastest way to catch any fish is on the drop. So what I mean by that is if you go in, right, and your feed hits the bottom and your tip goes round, you don't get any quicker than that. As soon as you're waiting for the bite, then obviously it's not the same, is it? You're waiting for the bite, and so you're spending time. And the same on a pole. The fastest way to catch fish on a pole is if you go in and you get the bite on the drop. That's instant, isn't it? And you come out with a fish. So it's better to catch them on the drop. And I love to fish for the big hybrids in Ireland. I love to fish on the pole, loose feeding casters, and then I use a long hook length, probably 20 inches, sometimes more. So my nearest shot on my pole rig will be 20 inches away with 09 line, so fairly fine line, 09, 08, and an 18 hook, and bury the caster, and you catch some big hybrids. There's some fish, and hybrids are one of them, where they're in your peg, but you don't catch them. You get a bite, a fast bite, and you think, oh, that's a line bite. It's not. They know. They can tell as soon as they hit your caster that they haven't even taken it. That's. I've had some good weights too. Won some good matches, 20 to 30 kilo, catching hybrids on the drop with gear as light as that. So that's 20 odd kilos, nearly 50 pound of hybrids on 09. I'm going to try and do a few of these. Nick Payne, does anyone find removing Yeah. Oh, Nick is asking, does anyone find removing the the line, on the Dacron connectors difficult? No, it isn't difficult. You either when you do your loop, do another loop. So do 2 loops, and then you fit your bigger loop onto your Dacron, and then you just pull your small loop. Or else, quite often, what I do is I just do 1 loop, and then if you use I'm in my fishing room at the moment. Where is it? I'm looking for. I've got a little pointed. These like knot removers, where you get a very sharp pointed implement, and you can just. So that's how I do mine. I just use my knot remover and just push it in, and then the knot will come undone. So you just thread it round on itself. It's ever so hard to explain on these things. Andy Bennett is watching. What's my friend John asked? This is one of my most loyal, John Dickey. This is one of my most loyal. When fishing to hand or whip fishing, would you have your rigs on the winders for each depth, or would you just see more? Oh, it's not letting me see more. I usually have my rigs roughly what I think I might need. So I might have an 8 metre winder, or a 7 metre, or a 6 metre. So I do have ones to cater for each depth. But then if I muck them up, then if I'm fishing a festival that night, I'll redo them up again. So I usually put them over length, maybe 7 metres, 6 metres, and then use them on the day, and then if I change, then I redo them again that evening. James is watching. Bill Stevenson, we had this question from someone else. Why the white hat? I feel nice. I've got some questions on my laptop, but it's nice that I'm answering these as they're flicking up through my screen. Why the white hat? I have told this story before, so if you have heard it, I do apologise. I was fishing in Florence, 1981, 81, 82. Anyway, many years ago. It's the World Club Championships. And Florence in July is incredible because it's a city surrounded by mountains, so it's like in a massive basin. And then the River Arno, because it's running through the city, it's protected. They have a lot of rain in the winter by these massive, and they've got to be 30, 40 foot high walls either side. So you're sitting down and there is not a breath of wind and the sun is beating down. And I was wearing this black cap, practicing. I always used to wear a black cap. Don't ask me why, but black cap's probably all I could afford. And a very, very famous Italian angler, and we've been friends from then to now, Milo Colombo. I know you've heard of Milo fishing. He's obviously a tackle manufacturer, and he's still fishing, and he came over and fished in England this year with me, so it was good to see him. But he came along, Bobby, why? Because the sweat was pouring off me, and I mean pouring, dripping. Why the black cap? He said, Bobby, white. He said, white, because then you reflect the sun. And so I went and bought a white cap then. And that weekend, and it was the World Club Championships. It was mainly a carp match, and the rules, and they're still probably the same now, but they were pretty tough then. You only had 10 metres to the next angler, 10 metres each side, and then you're there. And your fish, if you hooked a fish, it mustn't. If that came to the surface in another angler's peg, it was disqualified. And we were fishing wagglers. And that's where I came up with the idea of, I was catching carp, not too many, but I was doing okay. But casting out, because most other anglers then were pole fishermen. You think, go back to 1980 odd, English anglers were pretty good on waggler. That's all we usually used to do. And I was casting out, loose feeding. I might have been feeding sticky mag, I'm not sure. But I was catching carp and not many other. But of course, when I hooked them, you imagine hooking, say you hook a carp at about 30 metres. It hasn't got a kite round far, has it, before it's coming up in someone else's peg. So every time I hooked the fish, I just put my rod under the water and I just wound very slowly. And it probably went through 3 or 4 pegs. It might have hooked up to other people, but I got most of them out, and then just when you know you got it in front, I lifted the net. And anyway, I won my section both days. And I won the world. I was the world individual champion. So that's another world championship that I've won. Yeah, world club champion, 1981 or 82. I don't know. And I've worn the white cap ever since. I'm flicking up through these. I miss your Bob Nudd international range of ground, but oh, sorry about that, Mark. Somebody missing my. I find that loop to loop has a slight kink and doesn't hang straight. Yeah, he's right there. This is from Tony Vickerstaff, and I don't do normal things with fishing, I must admit. So, and I don't. Most anglers do loop to loop, but I favour. What I do is when I want to hook, or when I want to connect 2 pieces of line, but for most times when I'm connecting my hook length to my main line, I use a knot called, I call it a twisted figure of 8. I sort of lay the 2 bits of line together, form a loop, and then I just twist my finger and thumb like that, and it twists it, and then I push the hook and the loop through. You finish up with, I'll show you the knot you finish up with, because it's unbelievable how small it is. Let me have a look. I must have one here because I've got loads. So let's have a look. You probably can't even see it because let's try it against my black. That's the knot that I finish up with, that tiny, and then if I push this shot down against it, that's what I have. And it's about 90%, 95% knot strength, really strong, tiny. So for presentation, without a doubt, for perfect presentation, that's the best. Because when you've got a loop and a loop, you get an interference as it goes through. And also, you get an area which can tangle. I hardly ever tangle a rig. And if you lay it in properly and it drops through the water. And sometimes when you're fishing, say with a short hook length, say you're fishing with a 2 or 3 inch hook length, and then you've got a double loop, it's not as good. So I just tie and I never know what hook length. I don't have a 9 inch or a 7 inch. I might be fishing, like I said, for those hybrids, it might be 20 inch. It might be, if I'm fishing bread punch on my local river at March, it might be a 2 or 3 inch if I know there's going to be some fish. So, because obviously if you can fish tight with your shot tight, you see your bite indications are much better, but you have to get the bite. If you can get the bite, then everything wants to be close. So I'm not traditional. I use this knot. I don't know the name of it. I tell you who would know, because he knows everything, Keith Arthur. You cannot ask Keith Arthur anything that he doesn't know. He would know exactly what that knot was called. But it's a loop. I sort of twist the loop, so there's a little twist, and I put the hook and the tag end through. I did a video on knots, and it'll be on there somewhere. So, and you don't get any kink with that. That's a lovely one. Hi, Bob. Oh, this is from a friend who I took fishing. And he's just saying what a day he had. Yeah, when I take people fishing, I go to my local commercial lake. It is really good fishing, Decoy Lake. So, and he'd been there. I'm getting some brilliant questions. This is from Steve Evans. When fishing caster, why do I come back with an empty shell? Well, the reason for that is, Steve, you haven't seen the bite. And if you don't see the bite, it's quite easy. If you don't see the bite, it means that your actual shots that indicate your dropper shots that you're getting a bite are not close enough. So you have to move everything closer. When you stop getting bites, you pull away, but you have to Shot your float up so that the droppers are indicating to you what's happening. As that bait's going through the water, is probably when you're getting the bite, when you can get shelled. And roach are crafty and you can miss bites. But to remedy that, you shorten your hook length down or bring your dropper shots closer and you should see them. And it's a good problem to have because it means the fish are feeding well. It means that when you've come back with an empty shell, it means that cast has been right down the back of the throat of that roach. So it's probably been there about 10 minutes and you haven't seen it. No, not 10 minutes, but a few seconds, Steve. That was a nice one. But just tighten up your dropper shots and you'll see your bites. And it's lovely to work out. It means you're feeding okay because the fish are feeding all right. You just got to be on the ball with it. Maybe your ring might be a bit too heavy, but I don't usually find that. I usually find reading your shots to your float is more important. And if you're on feeder and that's happening, if you're on a feeder, definitely if you're on a feeder and you're getting shelled and you aren't seeing it, then you definitely shorten the tail, shorten it much more. We're getting loads of people watching. How come so many people are watching today, eh? Must be lovely. Must be lovely not to do anything. I'm getting so much work done at home. Unbelievable. But let's hope we can start fishing again. Oh, I've got greetings from Thailand. That's from Michael. Hi Michael. Richie Peoples, what match would you love to win? Oh, you know this. This is from Richard Peoples. He's a good Irish friend of mine. Good angler too. We've often been in the same section. He loves to beat me, and he does sometimes. He's a good angler. He's saying, what match would you love to win? And well, I've won 4 World Champions. That's okay. But Richard, I would love to win the Classic. I don't know. Twice I've been second, so and I won't win it this year because it's not on, is it? Dave Baptiste. This is another question. I used to supply you with worms. If you can remember that far back. Yes, I can, Dave. I can. And it's another good friend of mine, John. He used to fish in the John Wing Cup. He used to fish in the same team as me. He used to fish for Essex County, and now he's a brilliant. You have to specialise in things, and now he's become a brilliant commercial. He specialises more in. But I still notice him coming out on our rivers last year. But he's a brilliant commercial fisherman, and winning lots of money. And a fellow Browning team member, so it's great. He joined Browning this year. And great to see you joining us, John. Oh, Carl Taylor's telling me it's a Stoneflow knot picker. That's right. That's the thing that you can use to get your line off. Someone from Danny used to go to Shannon in Rooski. Yeah, we're just getting some lovely comments. Oh, someone else saying I'm looking good. Well, look, you don't have to lie. You get to a certain age where you don't look so good. But to be truthful, I'm very healthy. You know, I'm probably eating good foods. Absolutely no. I wouldn't know what stress was, would I? I don't have any stress in my life whatsoever. The only stress is not even getting to the next match. I just got everything that I want. I just don't. Just one of these. I don't want anything else. I'm just so lucky. I can't even think. Yeah, I want to go fishing. Yeah, we all want to go fishing, don't we? But there's another one saying, great story about the white cap. I'm getting some lovely compliments. I don't know what. I don't get many people being nasty. I don't know why, but I just don't. I suppose some people can, but I don't see hardly any. Richard Clegg, OBE, 1981, Florence. Oh, this is from Richard Clegg. He's without a doubt, and I know I would say it, but he is, and he still is there, but he is definitely the best team manager ever. Best record, great to work under. I was totally dead scared of him. I think everybody was. He was tough. You couldn't get away with anything, but He was a wonderful team manager. Really, he did a lot for me. One day, I'll just tell you this, because I like to come out with little stories. He won the World Championship. Kevin probably will hate him if I tell it. If he's heard this, is Kevin Ashurst, because in 1990 I won the World Championship. Kevin was second, but I won my second section both days. Kevin had a first and a second, and then we went to Hungary. I won it, and Kevin was second, and we both won our sections, and I beat Kevin. See, you only know about winners, don't you? But I beat Kevin over the 2 days by about 3 ounces, so nothing. And I haven't told anybody this before, but it's Richard that done it. Richard Clegg was the one that done it, because the second day, the team tactics were to catch these perch close in for about 45 minutes and then go out on the pole after the roach and carp and this sort of thing after 45 minutes. So, and while you were catching the perch, you did have to keep, I was loose feeding and I didn't stick to exactly, sorry Dick, I didn't stick exactly to team tactics that weekend, but what you did do, after 30 minutes, Dick came along to me and I was catching perch, and I'd got 40 or 50 of these small perch on bloodworm at 2 metres, right in close they were, catching them fairly quick, but a Frenchman, they were better at it than us, he'd got 60 and someone else had got 50, and I was doing okay. And Dick came up to me after 30 minutes and he said, "How many you got, Bob?" I said, 45, I think, Dick. "Go out on that long pole." I said, "Oh, I thought we were going to do it for 45. Go out on that long pole." And I'd been feeding out there. And so I went out on the long pole. And straight away, I caught a roach on the drop, a nice roach, about 3 or 4. And off he walked, smiling and laughing. But if I'd have stuck the team plan and fished 45 minutes for small perch, I wouldn't have beat Kevin. I would have won my section still, because I won it by quite a bit, but I wouldn't have beaten Kevin by 3 ounces. So thank you, Dick. Probably Kevin won't thank you. Sorry about that one. I thought I'd just let that one slip after all these years. So, but I've got a lot to owe Dick for. Hey, for a start, he's drawn me 8 good pegs, hasn't he, for 4 World Championship wins? Because you don't, in the World Championship, you don't draw your peg yourself. Your team manager draws it. So he's drawn me 8 good ones. Oh dear, I've mucked my camera up now. I'm trying to flick up if I can. Are you fed up yet? Are you still coming on? What's the time? Oh, we're okay. I've got it on my computer. I can't believe that. It's 20. Been on for 40 minutes and I haven't done anything. Oh, Clive's saying to Dick, "Hi Dick, hope you're well." It's great, it's social media, but to be able to go online and talk to people and for you to ask me questions, it's just great for anglers, because do you know what, when we talk about technology, when I was at school, calculators weren't invented. We had to do everything logs and anti-logs, and I was very, very good at maths, but we never had calculators. And now I've got the smartest iPhone in the world that does everything for me when you're taking pictures and that. Clive, you'll have to tell me when you've had enough of me and send me a message. Kenny Hawkhead's watching. He's a great friend of mine. Peter Burt, I can remember watching you years ago. How come you never look any... You are joking. Somebody's saying, how come I don't look any older? Well, I do. I don't feel any older, though, because... Do you know why? Do you know why? I've not had a proper job for 40 years, so nothing's worn out in me. So I'm still just about... I feel pretty fit, really, for what I am. And most important thing, my eyesight is still pretty good. I don't have to wear glasses to read. I'm reading off a tiny screen in front, which is not even near me, and plus my pictures on it all the time. Hi Bob, do you ever fancy going back to Portumna? Do I ever fancy? Yeah, I do fancy going back to Portumna. Portumna is on the Shannon in Southern Ireland. I had some great weights there. I remember one year fishing the Dutch King of Clubs there. You had to qualify and go and fish. And I was sharing with Jan van Schendel. He's another good team manager. He's still a team manager, probably one of the best there has been, definitely, apart from Dick. He's very knowledgeable. And we were fishing the Dutch King of Clubs, and we were sharing and catching some massive weights. I think one day I caught 65 kilo of hybrids, which is, pretty good weight of those. But the thing is, Jan won the festival and beat me by about 3, and I was second, and there was about 80 in it. And I was second, and he won a car. So we shared the car, sold it and shared it, and I won a computer and a sound system, and it was all sort of prizes rather than money. But yeah, I'd like to go back to Portumna, but I fished for 12 weeks in Ireland as it is, so you can only fish for so long, can't you? 12 weeks in Ireland. I like my fishing here. I like my winter fishing. Bernie likes to have the odd holiday, but then I tell him my life's one long holiday, without a doubt. Let's go through here. Oh, there's quite a few people I know are watching, which is great. Think that knot you described was a 2 or 3 turn water knot. Yeah, I think so, Gary. Gary Swain is saying he thinks the knot I described was a 2 or 3 turn water knot. I'm not sure it is. And the twist, because it's maybe, but the twist puts I don't know. He called it an IKEA figure of 8. So Gary's very knowledgeable. It's called an IKEA figure of 8. I can tell you one thing. That knot is a tiny, brilliant knot. Now, Andrew Moses is saying we all have sod all to do, Bob. Do you know, I find the time goes, though. I honestly do find the time goes quite quickly on my computer, tidying my fishing room, doing rigs, loads and loads of rigs I'm doing. My garage, I'm cleaning out my garage, getting through that. Yes, I'm getting things done. Nick Crooks is saying, how do I keep my hat so clean? Look at that. Bernadette Nudd is the answer. It's definitely not Bob Nudd. Bernadette Nudd keeps them. I've got 3 of them. Liam Dale's watching. Hi, Liam. I bet you weren't watching when I complimented you, Liam, on what a good film director you were. What started you fishing? Yeah. Nikki Cox is asking what influenced me in fishing. I don't know. My sisters took me when I was younger, when I was about 8 or 9 years old. There wasn't much else to do, and I was catching small roach and dace by the river. And then I went to work at a company called Marconi's, and they had a good fishing club, so I joined that, and I won a lot of prizes at sort of 20-year-old. That was clubs, so I got interested in it really then, and started to fish and get more into the match fishing side of it. Plus the fact, this is the biggest factor, I was married, say, at 21, 3 daughters within the space of a year and a half, 2 years now, 3 young children. You have to get out and go fishing, get out of the way. But now sometimes I do regret that I was away too much and should have spent a bit more time with them. Do you use red hooks, Bob? Now, this is from Ronnie Goldwater. No, I always use, Ronnie, I always use red. I love to use red hooks. I've caught so many fish on a bare red hook. The fish think it's a joker or a bloodworm. I think they must associate it with something, because if they're eating bloodworm and joker, that's a natural bait for fish. So they must be used to it. I once, when you're testing the depth you have your bomb on and you still have your hook on, and I was fishing in Ireland once and I chucked this bomb with I think it's probably a size 12 hook, might have been a size 14 red hook. Threw it out about 40 metres, and I didn't see a bite, but I just came back in and I could feel a fish, and I came in with this 14 hook and a roach, about a 4-ounce roach. I could feel it when it was coming back, and it was perfectly hooked through the top lip. Weren't foul hooked at all, And often I've been sort of, before you fish a match, you run in the float through, checking, say you're on a pole and you run it through. I've caught so many fish doing that. I did it once in a winter league, years and years ago, and caught a fish and then never had a bite in the match. So perhaps it's not always a good thing. Right, let me see. Might be a surgeon. Someone else is saying that knot I was talking about might be a surgeon's knot. Yeah, could be. Could be. Writing in caps so you see it. Best presenter ever worked with. Oh, I see. I'm sorry. I thought you meant caps, Liam. Liam said writing in capitals so I can see it. Yeah. I've already said you're the best presenter, Liam. You didn't come on early enough. John Wincap. Cheers, Bob. That's from my friend of mine. Yeah, he does come from... but he is a brilliant angler and glad that we've got him in the team. And Amarino, will you ever come to Bob Tackle when this is all over? Another good friend of mine who works at Bob Co Tackle. Yeah, I probably will, but Bob Co's a long way. But it's a fishing tackle shop in Leeds, a lovely fishing tackle shop. Yeah, Clive's just telling that I answered. Liam hasn't been on all the time. Do you know what this is quite enjoyable. It's enjoyable. It's not a chore for me to be looking at what you're writing to me and for me to answer. I'm enjoying it. It's not oh God, I know it's not the same as when you're out presenting a fishing program and catching fish. It's quite easy, but it's good to be this close to people, but you're still miles and miles away. What's Callum saying? What baits would you take with you on the canal you have never fished before? Lots of chublets and roach, also lots of features. I think definitely a canal with chub, you have to take caster. Definitely. Chub love casters. And also maggots. Maggots and casters for that's the one bait that you're going to get bites from roach and from chub. Richard Pratt from Ireland. Yes, another good Irish angler. Hi Bob, hope you're keeping well. Yes, Richard, I'm very well. Hope you and your family are doing well. How's Molly? Is she okay? Yeah, I don't quite understand that. I don't understand all the questions. I'm sitting here, and then I'm looking right down at some words on my phone, which is not that close. Yeah, Gary Swain, big respect from Richard Clegg. You're a true gentleman. Oh, thank you. I do get some good compliments, but never mind. It's nice. It's an honour, and sometimes you feel humbled by just sometimes how good people are, the good quality of questions. Not anything. I don't know. Is there any jealousy in angling? I'm never jealous of anybody else, and if it's a good angler, I praise them, and I never run down also anyone who isn't the best angler. I never run them down because you all start somewhere and you all have to learn. I appreciate when I started, to be truthful, I wasn't very good. I'm miles better now than when I was 24 years old, I can tell you that. I'm miles more knowledge and know what to do and control of tackle. I was lucky that in pole fishing, long poles came in, and you've got my heroes, Kevin Ashurst, Ian Heaps, Ivan Marks, all the top anglers, and even today, like Wayne Swinscoe, they were all good rod and line anglers, brilliant at it. Stan Peacher's another one that used to fish in the same circuit. But the pole was only just coming in, so I was lucky. I wasn't as good as them on the running line and not as well known, but on the pole, I was in before them almost. So I got to learn while they were just learning the pole, so I was level with them, even though they were better anglers, and I always understand they were better anglers than me. And then I just got into it a bit more, perhaps. What is the best way of tackling hybrids on the erm system where it is quite strong, where flow's quite strong on the feeder and pole? Yeah, that's a good one. Hybrids are a very difficult fish to catch. You know, on feeder and anything, you usually get an instant bite from them. Or what it is with hybrid, Shane, is really, it's like any other fishing. You have to be very accurate with your casting. So getting the feeder in the same place and detecting the bite. I haven't told this story to many people, but quite often hybrids, which I did mention earlier, will take on the drop. I understand some of you are coming in and going out and flicking into the... I'm trying to move my camera a bit. I'm on a bit of an angle. Let's have a look. And hybrids love coming in, even if you're fishing a window feeder and going in. When your feeder hits the bottom, I'm trying to think of a match. I was fishing on Patora, on the Patora section on the River Erns, so quite a deep section 2 years ago probably. And it was one of those difficult days, but the hybrids, you only got the bite on the drop. And it wasn't normally a hybrid, you imagine your tips flying right round, but all you got with a long tail was just a little touch. So when you cast out, I was using a window feeder, one of these, like that. That was one of my old style window feeders. So it was going, hitting the bottom. It wasn't flowing particularly hard that day, but I was fishing with probably, I bet, a metre and a half, might be a 2 metre tail, a really long tail, with a 14 hook and double caster. And I was casting out, and the feeder hit the bottom, and you didn't do anything. You couldn't tighten up. You had to watch that tip then, that instant that the feed at the bottom, and you knew your bait is still a metre and a half, 2 metres off bottom. You just got a little flicker on the tip instantly and lifted into it, and it was a big hybrid. Now, if you'd have put your rod down and tightened up and mucked about, you wouldn't even have seen it. It was just instant. I won the section, not with a big weight, 16 kilo, I think, but really what I can say is look for the bite immediately you've gone in, and look to hit the bite then. Don't fiddle about, watch it, don't tighten up, just look at it, just look at the tip. You're on braid, you don't have to tighten up, you'll see the bite. So use braid with a fairly short hook, very short shock leader. Do you remember a video called Hungry for Gold? Yeah. There was a video made, Hungry for Gold. That's when, and that was a fabulous one. That one, because it's when we won in Hungary. What a team effort to win. To me to be world champion, Kevin to be second, so first and second individual. And even better, England won the World Championship that weekend. So yeah, that was Hungry for Gold, 3 golds. So I've had some wonderful memories, but I still get excited about fishing. You know, now I can't wait to go out again. And I still, when there's a match, say I'm fishing on the Yare or if I'm in Ireland, I'm awake about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, exciting, things running through my mind. How have I got to fish? What have I got to do? I can't wait to get up and start preparing, mixing the ground bait, and perhaps tying hooks. If I'm in Ireland, I'll be tying a few hooks in the morning as well, just to make sure everything's perfect. Mixing the ground bait. I just love it. But we're not going to get it. Not going to get it this year. Mick Fordham, so he's another brining man. Good afternoon, Danny. Chris Vanderveer. Hello, Chris. Do you think that the current England float team is falling behind due to the lack of bloodworm matches? I don't know, Chris. I don't think they are falling behind. I just think that other teams are getting miles better. It was, when I was fishing for World Championships, the competition, it might have been it probably was harder to win individually because the sections were 33 peg sections and you basically had to win both days. But the standard of anglers wasn't as high then as it is now. Don't get me wrong, there were still some brilliant anglers about, but I think it is more difficult to win now. Everybody is much, much more on the ball. So I just think general and in this country, even in matches in this country, much, much harder to win now. I think because of social media, because of magazines, because of you can learn so much more than when I was younger. I was self-taught really, just Billy Hughes and myself and a few team members. That's all we had. Oh, somebody's saying carry on all day. No, I can't carry on all day. You'll get fed up with me in a minute. I've been yakking for ages. Hi, Kevin. Kevin Ford's asking, hope I'm well. Yeah, I'm very well. Very well. I told you, for somebody who hasn't worked for 40 years, no, I have worked, but not had a proper job. I do work, that's silly. But I don't do anything at home. I do not do it. Shall I tell you how my morning goes? I'll bore you with my morning. Get up. When I'm at home, like on this lockdown, still in my dressing gown, and get on the sofa. And I've got one of these we've got one of these sofas where you press a switch and the leg thing flies up, and I put television on, looking for the news. And then a cup of tea arrives, so I have a cup of tea. And then about 15 minutes later, a round of toast and Marmite arrives with another cup of tea. And then about 15 minutes later, sugar-free muesli sometimes with some fresh fruit arrives, and I have that. So that's how my morning starts. I probably don't get dressed till about 10 o'clock in the morning. So I don't do a lot. Bernie looks after me. I don't do anything. And I mean, I don't do anything. It's lovely. Is anybody else like that? Does anybody else get looked after like that? I bet Dick gets looked after. I bet Richard Clegg gets looked after like that. It's lovely. So you do need, everybody needs somebody to look after them. A good woman does help. How would you approach a pleasure day fishing on a loch in Ireland? Yeah. This is from Danny. This is from Danny Hazel. You've got to find... If I was pleasure fishing, I would try to go the night before or the evening before just to get a bit of bait in, especially if I wanted bream. But if not, then you must get some local knowledge, because lochs are big, vast places and the fish are not in every peg. So you have to find... A good idea is to go after there's been a match on it. Sometimes when you have a match the first day it's a bit tough, but then the second day it gets better. So if somebody's been match fishing, is good to turn up, because there'll be some fish that have arrived in that area. So the main thing for loch fishing is getting on the fish by asking people. Broken any poles? Hello, Dave. I don't break poles. I use browning poles. They're so strong. Blimey, you can try and break them over your leg and they don't break over. Well, I did break one once, I remember. No, but poles these days are so much stronger than they used to be. What happens is, with poles, the more expensive the pole, and they're not really stronger than they used to be, because the more expensive the pole and the better the quality of the carbon, so the more fragile they are. I'm just trying to flick my laptop on again. There you are. So the more, if I can put it right, the highest quality carbon, you think, really expensive pole, but that will be the most fragile. You have to take care with it. The strongest poles are made of fiberglass or a high mixture of fiberglass. You can't break those. Richard, hiya Bob. In your opinion, when would be the best time to visit Ireland? Somebody's asked me, Richard's asked me when the best time to visit Ireland. I would have said, Richard, either between May and June, mid-June, and also September's a very good month. Yeah, if I was to say what month, I'd say September, because then the water is at its warmest. And you sometimes get some nice weather in September. So, yeah, if I was going for 1 week pleasure fishing in Ireland, I would say September. I think this is a question for Clive. He's talking about fishing Stourport Opens, and we'll probably chat to Clive in a minute. Somebody's saying that they have a family and perfect excuse to have a bit of your own time. Thank you for your time. That's all right. Okay. Well, look, we've been an hour, and I'm sure you've had enough of me. But I would like to thank all of you that have actually logged in, tuned in. What do you call it on this when you log in? You log in. I don't know, what would you call it when you connect with somebody online? Anyway, I'd like to thank all of you for and so many for coming in and asking these questions. I'll probably try and flick through these questions and answer some of them to you on my laptop or on my phone. But there's loads. There's some silly questions coming in, but there's some good ones, and that's lovely. Look, I've really enjoyed this little session, and the time has just flown by. But it's you that have made it, not me. If I was sitting there talking to myself, it wouldn't be any good, would it? But thank you for the sensible questions. Sorry that I haven't been able to answer them all, and thank you for so many of you logging in. I really appreciate it. It's lovely just connect with probably some of you that I will have never seen and will probably never will see, but you probably see me in magazines and that. But I will do it again. We'll have another 1 or 2 sessions while this coronavirus is about, and it's a terrible thing, and it's terrible, but I don't know. I'm not sure that what is the right way to go about it. I know one thing. If I can't go fishing on June the 16th, I'm going to be upset. Thanks for looking in. Really appreciate it. Bye. I'm going to switch off now. There's hundreds of things still coming in, but I'm going to switch off. Bye. How do you switch? Oh, finish. Yeah.